Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. This is the panel that everyone has been waiting for. It's the Automax Technician Panel, sponsored by Automax Recruiting and Training. Our moderator tonight is the owner of Automax. It is Joe Lockard. Joe, welcome back to the event.
Yeah, thanks, Ted. It's always a blast. We're getting pretty famous here, and hopefully we can share some more knowledge with the industry and have some fun while we're doing it.
You are beyond famous. You got the A-list here. I want to give a quick shout out because just last month, one of your panelists has been honored by Fixed Ops Magazine. It is Tully Williams from the Nilo Company. It's all about the hours, Joe. And,
wow.
We're so honored for Tully. And Sean Kingery, from what I understand, we have to call him Sir Tully now.
Yeah, he has officially been knighted now. That is correct, sir.
Right. So kind. Thank you so much.
All right. Joe, I will let you take it away.
Yeah. Before we get started here, I'd like to introduce everybody if we do have any first-time viewers here. Tully, I'm going to start with you since you're the man of the hour right now. Tully's Fixed Ops Director for the Nilo Company, and thanks for joining us, Tully. That's pretty awesome. First time on the magazine cover, correct?
Yes, absolutely. It's a great honor, and thanks to everybody here. And you know what? The Nilo Company been in business for 101 years.
Okay.
We have out in Sacramento, California, 10 rooftops of luxury brands.
Beautiful. I had no idea. 101 years, huh?
It's great because it started, and I have to remind everybody of this, just so you know, is that it started as a Packard Aero service center, which is always good because, most dealers are a little bit more on the salesy side.
Interesting. Beautiful. Well, thanks for being here. Always a lot of fun, always entertaining, and thanks for taking some time to be with us. Next is our technician to the stars, Marco Zwanenberg. Marco is an automotive technician of 20 plus years for Naples Luxury Imports in Naples, Florida. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great, Joe. Glad to be back on this panel. Let's have some fun, guys. Let's do this.
Absolutely, man. How did you stay safe during the hurricane down there? Naples is what, you Atlantic side?
Yeah, it was pretty bad, but I was blessed. I had no damage to my house whatsoever, but my heart and thoughts go out to the people that were hit hard and lost a lot.
Yeah,
it was not good.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. All right, sir. Well, I'm glad you're safe. And as always, thanks for loaning your unique perspective to the panel. We appreciate it. It's very valuable.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Up next, Robert Migliaccio, Service Director for CMA Valley Chrysler Dodge Jeep in Staunton, Virginia. Again, is it Staunton or Stanton? What did I say last time? You corrected me last time.
Yeah, I think you said Staunton, and we say Stanton, so it's all good.
Stanton. All right. Isn't John Denver from there or something? I feel like something with John Denver.
Crazy. Around here. I'm still new to the area myself, so I'm still learning some of the culture.
All right. So thanks for joining us. I want to comment on something. I have 3 daughters, and you're very active on LinkedIn. I saw the video of your daughter coming in and selling candy bars to the entire dealership. That was really cool.
That is true. Yeah, it started out as coming to work with Dad to sit in the showroom to take advantage of all the salespeople on a Saturday morning. And
right.
Our executive manager took the lead on that, pulled her into the Saturday morning sales meeting.
Wow.
And she had to pitch the 45, 50 plus people in the conference room to sell her candy bars on what she had. And it was a blast to watch. I really enjoyed it.
She handled herself really well. That's tough for a kid to walk into a room like that. She did great.
No, it was awesome. It was good to see.
Good, man. Good. Well, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Next, Mike Weldon. Mike's Fixed Ops Director for the Hansel Automotive Group out in Santa Rosa, California. How are you today, my friend? What's going on,
I'm really excited to be here today. We've got 8 rooftops and 1 collision center out here in sunny Santa Rosa area, and then plus a collision center, so we get to smell fumes from time to time, along with a cannabis facility right around the block.
Let's talk about that. Forget technician.
So I'm really looking forward to this.
All right, sir. I appreciate you. Outstanding leadership out there with yourself and David Long, and it's always a pleasure to have you on here.
Thank you.
Up next is Robert Stage. Robert, you are CEO and the lead Diag Tech for Stage 1 Mobile Diagnostic and Repair in Columbus, Ohio. How are you, friend?
Very good, Joe. How are you this evening?
I'm good, man. I'm good. What's new in Columbus? We're gearing up for that team up north here in a few weeks, correct?
Yep. Yep. Still very busy. Things are going well. Just keeps growing. So can't complain a
Awesome,
bit.
man.
Looking forward to
Awesome.
tonight's panel.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great having you. And again, another unique perspective for us that brings a different angle and a different voice. So I appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely.
Last and certainly not least is my friend Sean Kingreen. Sean, you got news too, my man. Sean is the new VP of Fixed Operations for the Kaiser Automotive Group in Madison, Wisconsin. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you for having me. Looking forward to the panel. I look forward to this panel every time, and I think everybody knows I've been on a few different panels, and love this panel. This is certainly one of the panels I get the most feedback from, without a doubt.
Good, man. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I get good feedback. You can kind of tell when people are just paying lip service. But I talk to a lot of people in the industry. I've actually talked to some OEM people in the industry that know of the panel. So it's certainly getting out there, and it's nice to see. So I'm going to jump right in here, and I believe this is our sixth discussion, and the majority of our discussion has revolved around recruiting technicians. We've talked a little bit about retention, and it always comes up with the recruiting conversation because obviously, they kind of go hand in hand. If you're not keeping the ones you have, you're in a constant cycle of recruiting anyway. But I want to go a little deeper on the retention side today, and I want to focus on what we are doing, what we can do to help groom technicians, bring them along in their career path. With the overarching idea being that as we're encouraging and assisting these individuals in their career development and personal development, it should lead ideally to them spending their entire careers with us, feeling a sense of community, of family, of devotion, and being a part of something bigger than themselves. And like I said, kind of ending that never ending cycle of recruiting, or at least lessening the never ending cycle of recruiting. I want to start with you, Robert. Robert Stage. Sorry, we spoke before the show, and you brought up a couple good points. First one was in regard to onboarding, and the second one was in regard to MPI training. Obviously, a lot within both of those. So I want to explore both. The onboarding, I've mentioned a couple times to you guys. I think we could do an entire panel about onboarding because, frankly, I think it ties into training, and that's when it all starts, right? That first day, those first weeks, the first month, everything that happens there probably sets the stage for whether or not this is going to be a long-term employee or not. I would like to touch on that a little bit, and then I definitely want to go into the MPI training, but I'm going to kind of turn it over to you. And I'm assuming that the MPI training ties into that anyway. I'm sure that's something that, in those first few days, weeks, et cetera, of someone joining your team, that's something that you're instilling in them. What does onboarding and training look like for your guys?
I think the best way to really describe it would be to kind of go with a little bit of anecdotal evidence. I worked at about 7 different shops in the aftermarket for about 18 years. And once I made it to the dealership, they did it completely different than everyone else had ever done. There was plenty of times where you were thrown to the wolves and you didn't know where to go, what to do, any of that kind of stuff. But when I went to a Volkswagen dealership, they were really big on making sure that you're onboarded and you really stayed with another technician, a lead tech, for about a month. And
Wow.
I was shown well enough that I was able to run my team, another team. So they made me team lead. And then when we negotiated for me to come into that dealership, they literally sat down with me and they had a career path for me. And I think that's something that a lot of places do not look into. They don't set up their guys for any type of success down the road. And they really set me up for a really great time at that dealership. And training was automatic. I was automatically entered into it once I showed 2 weeks or so of competence and, that I could be trusted. And they had already made the decision to put me as a team lead. And once they'd done that, I mean, I'd never had an experience like that. And I think that's what dealerships miss quite a bit. And even in the aftermarket shops, it's no different. It's actually worse, I would say, because that was the only place that right out of the gate, they set me up with automotive training. They set me up to go and do diagnosis and documentation, which of course is huge with your warranty and your policy. If you have to do anything to policy, it's huge that you put down exactly what you've done to that customer's vehicle. So I think that the training point that you brought up is probably a little bit better for us to even dive into, because I felt like at that dealership, they had me set up for absolute success. I could go anywhere I wanted to. My career path was going into service writing because I wanted to be a service manager at a dealership. You can't make it to management until you're a service, lane manager or you're a service writer. So, and they did all that for me. They kept their word. And of course that built trust. And when they keep their word and they build trust, it turned out great for me. So I think that's probably the best way to really describe what should happen in the onboarding and in also the picking up of the technician, really hitting the ground running with somebody.
Right. Yeah. And I appreciate the overview. Like I said, obviously we like to get to everybody, and we could go way in depth on both of those topics. And I'm sure we'll dig in a little deeper in the future. But I think you hit on, two things that should be the general theme for any new hire, and really regardless of what skill level you bring them on at, that show them, here's how it's going to happen. Here's what you have in front of you.
Right.
Here's the potential. Here's what you can do. And then allow them the freedom to grow and give them the tools to assist them and the support so that they can go ahead and hit those markers and grow as you grow.
Right.
So it's nice to hear. I appreciate it. Thanks for sharing.
Yep, absolutely.
Robert Migliaccio, I want to come to you next because, you had mentioned to me that unfortunately, and Robert hit on a little bit, and, I don't think it really matters whether it's on the retail side, the aftermarket side. There's always going to be places that do it right, and there's going to be places that have some room for improvement. And you've mentioned in your experiences that you've had techs come to you, and even top level techs that are maybe an entry level certification with you being at Chrysler, a level 1 certification, and they were denied the opportunity for ongoing training because of I guess you call it the logistics of it, of, hey, we can't have you away from the shop. That's going to cost us money, which obviously we see is extremely short-sighted. What's I guess instead of just blaming and pointing fingers, what's a way we can kind of overcome that? Because it's that's real. There's going to have to be a rotation. Somebody's got to pick up the slack there. The show goes on. But obviously, if you're not empowering those people and turning them into extremely high income earners and productive techs in your shop, you're just treading water the whole time.
No, I agree, and that's kind of why I brought it up. And it's never been a view or a position that I see myself in personally, but it's been conversations from working at different facilities and different manufacturers and different brands. The culture that's within the shop and what the ownership may bring down or what previous management had in place and things like that, that kind of deny the growth of an employee over the fact that the dollar and the bottom line for the then and now is more important than the future aspect of what you're looking to build and bridge together with continued training with your technician. And ultimately, I mean, the big part of it and what I see needs to be done is we have to look to the future in that, and we have to look at the fact that if we're hindering their growth, what care are we showing for them as a company, as a manager, as a department, if we're not willing to invest in them the way they're trying to invest in themselves with their learning and their teaching. So that's
I mean, if you don't invest in them, somebody else is going to. They're going to find someone who's willing to invest in them. So you're not really helping yourself at all. I mean, yeah, right. Any number of the people on this panel.
Exactly.
It's interesting. And the other thing I hear, and we hear this on the variable side as well, I don't want to train them up for them to leave me. So you lead from this fear mindset of, well, I can't give them this training, this and this, and then they're just more valuable, and then they're going to start shopping me and they're going to start looking. It's like, you need to think more of, what if I don't? What if I don't develop these people? What is my shop going to look like if I just got a bunch of level 1 technicians running around, and the amount of money that you're going to lose there? And I come back to keep saying it's largely a short-sighted endeavor, and it's not going to get you anywhere in the long run.
It is, and you're only going to set yourself up. I mean, you can't have one person who knows everything and the rest of the place not know anything at all, because you're just going to find out at the end of when you're burning at both sides, you're going to come to an end eventually, instead of having a strong team that you're growing, producing, and trying to put forth.
Yeah.
And, something that we've probably all heard it, and something I was kind of taught was, you teach them to replace you, but you treat them to stay. So that way, you always have your replacement in your hip pocket, but you built up a team that's willing to step up and do the right thing all the time, and
right
knows what to do, and you don't have to question it. You don't have to micromanage. You don't have to, babysit everybody in the shop. You can go out there, look around, see what everybody's doing, and actually invest in the person themselves more than just what they're physically working on. So
right, dead on. And other guys pick up on that too. They see that, and you know, no one technician should be the end all be all to your shop. They shouldn't be more valuable than the whole in the process. And you never want to be in a situation where, man, if we lose this guy, we're really screwed. We're really in trouble. And you know, we talk about investing in guys. In Chrysler, I see it a lot because I always hear they got to be level one. They got to be level one. Do you find it more valuable to get somebody to that first certification, or is it better, you know, to continue progressing or working with the techs that you already have that are at least at a base level certification?
yeah, we've gotten pretty aggressive with it, especially on the Chrysler side, just in what we need to for warranty purposes. So we have a very, very aggressive on paper handed out to the technician when they're hired. That reviews and recaps exactly their earnings potential for completing and advancing through their certifications. And as funny as we talked about it in previous months, and we didn't have it on paper for the technician. The day we produced it all on paper, put it in front of them on paper, by the end of the week, I was given about 4 raises. It was quite impressive once you put it on paper. So it changed the whole concept. So we kind of changed our view on how we go about handing it out ourselves and sit them down, show them on paper exactly where they can be. Right. And we're big on apprentice technicians and apprentice teachers with our master tech. So there's even a cycle in there for them to become a leader of an apprentice and what that can do for them and what they can grow into. So
right, it's crazy how that works, right? You know, saying it 20 times to one person often isn't as effective as just putting a piece of paper right underneath their nose and be like, here you go, here it is, this is what we're doing. It's just it hits differently. So all right, beautiful, thanks, I appreciate you sharing. Marco, I'm coming to you next, and I'm coming to you because you're our tech, right? So I like to inject you right in the middle of the conversation here and get your point of view on this. What's and I'm not sure we've ever really dove into this. What have been your experiences as far as training while employed by a dealership?
First of all, let's start with a conversation between management. What if we train them and they leave? What if we don't train them and they stay? It's a double-edged sword, but also you have to hold in mind you cannot make a great meal with one ingredient. Training it's two-faceted. You got your standard mandatory training from the OEM that has to be done, like Mercedes-Benz has the standards of excellence, Jaguar Land Rover has their excellence training, and then you got the selective trainings. When I worked for Mercedes, I had a pretty broad spectrum of trainings that I could select from the list and get over to my training superior, and he would approve or deny, depending on how busy we were at that time of year. Mm-hmm. But training is crucial. You cannot skip that step. However, you can't keep training just one guy or even two. Keep training them and training them and training them so they know it all and they have all these certifications and credentials that work for your shop, because your OEM looks at that, as we all know. And then don't hand it back over to them. Don't you have no compensation, no appreciation. And it goes so much further. Like Sean and I have talked about this plenty of times. It's not all just about the money. It really isn't. But if you want to have guys that stay in your store, like Robert was saying, put it on a piece of paper. Give them the path. Show it black on white. Stand behind what you do. When your most loyal people start getting quiet, and I'm sure that all of you have seen this happening in stores, you're too late. And here's where Charlie is going to come in with culture. It is very important. The training is part of your culture. It shows that you as a dealership are willing to spend money on me for me to gain knowledge. And yes, I can take that knowledge somewhere else. But if you treat me right, if you respect me, if I get compensated, not just financially, why would I? And this is where a lot of dealerships completely miss the mark.
Right. Well, and let's go to the worst case scenario, and they do leave. You'd like to think there's still a level of respect there, and you'd like to think they leave on good terms. And hey, this is a ridiculous opportunity. I can't pass it up, or I'm moving closer to my family, or something like that. You know, techs talk to each other, and it's gonna benefit you in the long term. People are gonna talk. They're gonna know that you do things the right way, and you're probably not going to be without that level of technician for very long.
What is your best advertisement, Joe? It's word to mouth.
Referrals, right? Yeah. I mean, everyone always asks me, like, what do you do for marketing? I'm like, man, Not much. just,
Right.
just,
But
just
if you
do
have
our
your,
job the best we can, and then it just kind of comes back to you.
if your resident technicians positive, and you can just see if you walk into a store, you can just see, like, talk about onboarding. When I started at Naples Luxury Imports, the shop foreman took me by
Yeah.
everyone and introduced me
Yeah.
to the fellow technicians, parts personnel. That's a great part of onboarding. So you're not thrown to the wolves, right?
Yeah.
But you can pick up an air that everybody is positive about their work environment, about management. And that is a great, great recruiting tool.
You bet. You bet. All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Tully, I'm
Absolutely.
kicking it up to you because you look like you're about to explode. So I got to let you just unleash.
Well, you know, I think the whole thing is there a plan in place? So you have two kinds of shops. You have an old time shop, an old dealership that has all top tier techs and no beginners. And what happens when they start retiring or deciding that my bones are getting too old, I'm doing something else? Your shop is not there. Or you have a young shop and everybody's young and nobody's growing. That is not the way we have to run a business. But I feel the way we want to keep technicians is one is you have to value that person as a person. Is it a tech? Is it a porter? Is it a detailer? Is it a salesperson? Everybody should be treated the same. But when it comes to technicians, as we want to talk about the pathway, is how often are you going over with that path? Every month. When we talk about a performance review, everybody says, oh my God, the performance review. It's a negative. No, a performance review is a positive. How many hours did you sell today? Mr. Foreman, you sold 452 hours times $55 is a huge amount of money. How is your recommendations? How are the recommendations on every car? How is your training standards? How can we make you more money for you and your family? Are you talking to your techs every month? Are you putting the piece of paper in front of them every month? Are you talking about the culture of making them better, richer, and go home tired? That's the key. Rich and tired, rich and tired.
He's still. Whose line is that? Whose line is that?
That's my line, my friend.
That's line. All right, that's yours. I got lost in our conversation. I thought that was Marco's line. That's beautiful. And you know, you hit on something big there. Something we talk about internally is inspect what you expect. So to continuously put the path in front of them and do a progress report together, and it's not you're not doing enough. It's, hey, we were supposed to be here. We're not there yet. What can we do to get you there?
100%. I mean, and if we have a person that's struggling, you know, the foreman's going to come in. What can we do? Are we giving you the wrong ticket? Have you signed up for training? Well, you know, I don't want to do that. Then there we go. I mean, there's always a reason why, right? Or they're having a personal issue. Our goal is you need to know your technicians as any employee. You have to show them what they can do. You show them the path. Get your cell phone out, bro. Get your cell phone out. Let's get to the calculator section. Let me show you what we can do for you if you do this for us. How are you doing in all these other great metrics? You're green. Your training's great. These are wins. These are great conversations that you have not yearly, not bi-yearly, not quarterly, monthly. Monthly is the key.
I like it. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Mike Weldon, I'm going to come down to you, sir. And obviously, you guys work with a number of brands down there. What's kind of your method, the way you guys balance that tricky aspect of, you know, the wheels keep turning in the shop, but I got guys that have goals and need to work their way through factory certs, and we can run a more effective shop as well. How do you guys navigate it?
Well, the first thing you have to realize is that for years we've done it all wrong. We didn't treat our technicians as assets. We didn't treat them as really part of the family. So we're kind of catching up, so to speak. And being a tech at one time myself, I kind of realized what was happening. And yeah, I could have walked away from the industry, but I decided to stay in it and build it better. And making sure that we treat our technicians with respect. We treat them as family. We get to know them. We get excited when they buy a house. We get excited when they have kids. And so we put them on a career path. When I hire valets in the store, that's a starting position. That's not where you're going to end up. And if that's where you end up, I'm really not interested in hiring you. I want you to advance in the area that you want. Doesn't mean you have to be a tech, but look at all the different opportunities that we have in the automotive industry in which you can go. You can end up being a salesperson if you want. You can be an administrative person. You can do so many things. But when you're developing technicians, you get them to understand the basis of the business. You get them to feel good about themselves. You get them to feel good about being part of a system, and then you advance them. And we developed years back a 4-tier process. We make sure that everybody understands what that is coming in. We do reviews with everybody. We advance them. We sit down with them. I did a review with a technician yesterday that one of the managers that had moved on had made commitments and didn't stick by it. So naturally, we had some work to do to get this guy back on the path. But by the time we were done, he was in a good place. The only thing he said, the reason why I came to you is because of the training. Because I was working in the independents and they weren't offering anything. So the training is huge, and we're going to have to invest. And all I can say to anybody who's watching this, when you do your forecasting for the next year, is factor in what you plan on forecasting for training, so that it's not a shock when you go and say, hey, I got to go spend this amount of money. It's part of business.
Yeah.
And I tell you, when the guy comes back, I just sent Tully knows. I just sent a guy to an advanced training process through Volkswagen where it's a 2-week course. The guy comes back, he's all jazzed, he's excited. His production goes up. He's already a productive tech, but he's really excited now. I invested in him. And the other thing is, the guy says, I'm next, and everybody wants to the line. I'm excited to do that.
Beautiful.
And OEM training is expensive. You look at the PTAP program, $30,000.
Yes.
You know, it's well worth it. I mean, $30,000, God, that's a lot of money. No, it ain't. It's cheap. It's a bargain for us.
It pays dividends.
I bet that's an investment, right? Absolutely. And Mike, I appreciate your honesty there. And you said something that really hit me. And I think we're an honest group, and what we're trying to do here, like yourself were trying to do as you moved from a technician into a more management leadership role, is affect some change here. And the fact of the matter, like you said, is that it hasn't been good for years, and we're kind of still in a healing process, right? And we hear it and we feel it when we talk to technicians. There's still a significant level of distrust that you have to overcome before you can start moving forward. And it's nice to at least recognize that. And I think a lot of technicians probably appreciate hearing that. And in your conversations with them, when you're looking to bring someone on, you find a way to kind of start the healing process and acknowledge it and say, hey, look, I understand you've probably not had this opportunity before. This is it right here. This is real. We're doing it the right way from now on. And when you really spell it out for them, I think it starts everything on the right foot, and you start trying to move forward. I appreciate it, sir. Thanks for sharing. Sean, I'm coming to you last. I obviously, I mentioned your new position, a pretty significant undertaking when you're starting somewhere new. And obviously you're not new at this. You've been doing this for a while, and you're going to bring a certain level of experience and expertise to the position. And I'd assume be given a certain level of freedom. You don't have to, go over the full plan here, but where's your line of thinking here as you come into this new role?
Well, I think it starts back. You can go back 2 panels ago when Marco said, a technician makes his mind up in the first 30 minutes whether he's going to stay at that store or not. Listen, he can stay for the guarantee. He knows that guarantee 30, 60, 90 days. He's gone. He knows that. And that goes back to where I know Robert, Robert does some tech college recruiting like I do. Guys, the tech recruiting and the tech training and the career path starts there. Yeah, okay, we're going to hire you at 15, 16, 18 bucks an hour. But here's what a career path looks like, and here's how you make a 6-figure income. The career path almost takes care of itself. Because as they go along, they see if they do their levels. We'll go back to Chrysler just because that's where Robert's sitting in front of. Level 0, here's what you get. Level 1, here's where you get. By the way, those are all online. You can do those over a weekend. Yeah. And listen, you can already make $22, $23 an hour. Because by the way, you talked about somebody made a comment that training is expensive. How is it expensive? How can they fix? How can any technician fix a vehicle they don't know? It's not real. You can't do it. You'll never do it. And I've taken a lot. Listen, I know this panel's for everybody out in the real world. I've taken a ton from this panel, and everybody knows that. Robert and Marco and I talk a lot too. And we all know that Tully and I have a great relationship. And Joe, I've used your services, and I'll continue to use your services. No matter how bad you think recruiting Wisconsin is, Joe, you're still going to be around.
I didn't say bad. I didn't say bad. I think you've had it a little easier down in Florida. Let's put it that way.
Okay, it's a culture change, but that's okay. But guys, you can't expect. And again, I'll say previous management. I won't throw anybody under the bus. I took over a store once that had one technician, master certified, one, and they were throwing all the ROs in his name. Yeah. Guys, the OEM is smarter than us. They came in. It's called tech ID swapping, by the way. And I had a relationship with an OEM, and I called the guy and said, "Hey, what's this going to look like?" He goes, "Hang on, because this is going to hurt." Because they knew what they wanted. This guy wasn't doing 85 ROs in a day. They knew what they were doing. And guess what? Once you got everybody certified, those that wanted to be certified, those that wanted to go to level 3, those that wanted to be master techs, once you got them there, it all smoothed out, and the store never made more money, ever. You don't save money by saving money on training, ever. Not one time.
Right. Yeah. Beautiful. And it is investment. Like I said, I mean, there's no way you're going to get to the level that you want to get to without spending some time and spending some money on these types of candidates. So I appreciate all you guys sharing. I'm waiting. Ted usually signs us off here. I'm waiting for Ted to pop into our screen and give us the heave ho. There he is.
Hey, Joe, I'm just.
I mean, we can keep going if you want us to. I mean, we could run this thing for an hour, but.
Hey, so I got to ask Sean. You've started this new position, huge position, ownership. Congratulations to you at the new dealer group. What are you looking for now when you go in? You're looking at your shops. You're looking at your technicians. What's on your radar as you start off here?
Back, you know what, Ted? And good question. Back to the basics. Everything's back to the basics. And again, whether Robert's on his own and Robert does his independent, and Tully's in a group, and Mike and Robert all in groups. It's back to the basics. It's back to the fundamentals. It's back to where are we at, where are we going? And it's shocking, whether it's in Wisconsin or Florida, it's shocking to know that there are no career paths out there. And when you talk to the technicians and you actually get to know their names and you say, listen, here's where we're going, and they buy into it. We used to call it drinking the Kool-Aid. And my old owner, we all know, used to call it drinking the cooler. Once you get them drinking the Kool-Aid, guys, it just everything falls into place. And the money, literally, the register starts filling itself.
Right.
And
so you're tasked with that. I know Marco has talked about that as being the culture of the store and being able to share that.
You cannot use that word enough. And we talked earlier on the panel, guys, word of mouth. And I give Joe a hard time about recruiting. Guys, word of mouth is the key. If the dealership has a bad reputation with the technicians, when they go to school, go to one of the OEM schools and listen to them talk trash about their stores. Right. Listen, that's the avenue. That's the opportunity right there.
And I love that you mentioned go back to basics, because we always use culture and you think it's big, grandiose. Yes. We joke around about the posters in the wall. I know, Mike, we talked about, not your poster because you guys live it, but it really is more about what's going on day to day at the dealership and the fundamentals, like you said. And I think especially with technicians, Marco, you can attest to this. You guys all as leaders of technicians can attest to this. If they don't feel like you know what you're talking about and you're pointing them in the right direction and instilling those fundamentals and following up on those fundamentals, guys are screwing around and they're slowing me down. That's how word gets out, and that's how the culture gets damaged more often.
Well, he's going back to the basics. He's going back to the hours, my good friend. Get right. The hours in.
Hey, Sean, the only thing you have to remember, Sean, go back to the basics. Always ask yourself, what would Marco do?
Everyone's gonna have a catchphrase here by the time we're done.
Ted, I see the panel now. What would Marco do?
I'm already writing it down. I'm gonna look up the trademark.
Hey, we have Tully buttons. We need a Marco band. What would Marco do?
What would Marco do? Joe, I like that.
I like it.
The buttons, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a whole show by itself. Wow.
Joe, he's gonna give us a run for the money, I tell you. Joe, you work with these leaders. I have learned so much, Joe, from the best that you brought out of the people on this panel over many, many months. And you're right. A lot of people watch this. Joe, when you go in at Automax and work with the dealership, it's likely not an overnight success with what they task you with. Just take us through the process a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah, we do. We look at tech recruiting as an ongoing venture, right? And we like to set that expectation up front. And in all of our technician campaigns run in 3-month increments, and knowing that it's going to take a while to build up a pipeline. We might have someone plug and play. We've been doing this for early 26 years here, in a couple of weeks, actually. So we have a nice pipeline. We have a talent network. We know people, but it's a process. And we like to work with people that understand this is something that should always be happening. You should always be recruiting. There's mine, everybody. ABR, always be recruiting. You should always be looking for technicians, and you can always add more talent. You can always find, we've talked a lot, everybody's talked about the apprentices, and start them as a porter and see if they want to go into being a writer or go into be a technician. More often than not, you can always add one of those if you're looking for the right type of person instead of just trying to plug in a certification or plug in a resume. So those are the types of relationships that we like to sustain with our clients.
Our audience, if you'd like to know a little bit more about Automax, you could speak to anybody on this panel because they can tell you a whole lot about what Joe Lockhart has done for their business and for our industry. Joe, if our audience wants to reach directly out to you, I see an email at the bottom. What's the best way?
Yeah, we're all over the place. You can get me or get us on social media, or you can go to our website, automaxrecruitingandtraining.com. I can be reached on my cell phone at any time as well, 609-705-8646. Ted, I'm throwing something out there. We never do this. Now to the end of the year, 10% off all recruiting services if you mention the Fixed Ops Roundtable in the tech recruiting panel.
That's
so
great.
any mention of this panel gets you 10% off.
Nice plug.
Everything, yeah.
I
We don't
bring up
usually
the
do
word
it.
Marco.
End of the year, we'll put it out there. It's our
Does
Christmas.
does that include existing customers, Joe? Just want to know.
It includes everybody. My
All right,
friend.
good to know.
Okay.
You guys are already discounted. You guys are down at cost. You don't get discounts.
There's this disclaimer right there, Sean.
That's it.
Nah, it gets everybody.
All right, Joe. I think I can see the email to Michelle right now with the new graphic that we're going to use to promote that. So I love that. That's strong.
That's a good idea. Thank you.
I want to thank everybody tonight on the panel. Sir Tully Williams, it's all about the hours. Mike Weldon at Hensel Automotive Group. Thank you, Mike. Robert Stage at Stage One Mobile, turning our industry around with one at a time. Marco Zwanenberg. What would Marco do? I love the catchphrase. Sean Kingery and Robert Miggs, rising star at Carter Myers Automotive, and Joe Lockhart with the panel. Everyone, I want to wish you and your families a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you, Ted. Same to you.
You also,
On
Ted.
behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, everybody, thank you all for what you do for our industry. The Automax technicians panel here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
I know.